Okay, I'm going to make a video since we're into these Italian Vetterlis, the conversions of 6.5. I'm going to discuss the safety about shooting factory ammo, like off the shelf full strength ammo, or ammo that a lot of people like to dump some of the powder out, reassemble it, and shoot a squib load. And I will also discuss my cast bullet load, which I have shot and recommended to shoot in these guns. Okay. Now, we all know, and I don't think they'll mind because I just reviewed their video, CNR Arsenal, who does an extremely great job of doing in-depth with 3D drawings of the mechanics of the weapon. But when they reviewed this particular gun, they had the young lady, May, that shoots the guns out on the range. They had two of these guns had a catastrophic failure. I guess one of them, the lugs in the back of the bolt cracked, and the second one, it vented gas through these holes, and I'll explain that, and broke the stock. So, what they did is, I reviewed this. He took a standard factory round, and he dropped the powder charge down to 80%. He fired it, and they had a lug crack. So he figured, let's go with 70 or 75%, and that's when he had the blowout, and the stock and everything was pretty bad. Now you're thinking, why would that happen? Lowering the powder charge. And there's a ton of videos out there where people tell you to take a PPU round, dump the powder out, weigh it, put half of it back in and fire it, and they go and shoot it in these guns. Now, why you can run into a problem, because what most people don't realize, and I have a powder burn rate chart here. There's 197 different gunpowders with different burn rates on this list. This is the current list of what's manufactured. Now, why do we have 197 different powders? Well, obviously, one powder don't fit all, and the concept, it's not dynamite, where one stick of dynamite is too much to blast a rock, we put a half stick in. Okay? Something people don't realize, and that's why with load data, you must go by the load data starting at the minimum loads and going up. It is actually dangerous, and you could cause high pressure by reducing the amount of powder you put into the case. There is a weird effect that when you start going down too low, you can cause high pressure by having too light of a powder charge. So you ask, how does this happen? Well, these burn rates, okay, why there's 197 different powders, is because in the time it takes for the powder to combust in the case, propel a bullet of a certain weight in a barrel length, which most standard ones now are 20 inches or 18 inches, but these things here have like a 30 some odd inch barrel. So that throws another thing into the computation. What happens is there's also time. It's called the time pressure arc. There's a graph where they have time on the bottom and the pressure goes up and down, and that is determined by the powder. So when you put too little powder in, the powder burns, but doesn't create enough pressure to get the bullet out of the barrel, and then it's like it's supposed to be out of the barrel at a certain speed. That's what more powder would make it travel faster. And then you get to where it's not releasing the pressure. And the reason there are different burn rates are there are powders that specifically the pressure goes up and drops off sharply. And there's a powder that's identical to the same burn rate, more or less, but it goes up and it stays, that pressure stays there. That's to get a heavier projectile out of the barrel, okay, where the gun is manufactured to withstand the acceptable pressure rates, okay. And this is the thing, like say 65,000 psi is what most high-powered rifle things are. Now, the 6.5 Carcano itself is not a very powerful cartridge. I think 45,000 psi in that range, it's way less than like 30-06 and 8mm, and that, those are, or 308. So, it's not a killer cartridge to begin with. It's not a high-pressure round, okay? So what is happening is when they reduce the load, like I said, to 70-75%, that almost blew the gun apart. That's the effect. So you have to be careful when you do that. Now, when I went back and reviewed them firing the gun, the 6 rounds for the thing, they finally figured out a safe load and tested it, and before they went on camera, if you watch, or when you watch the young lady fire the gun, okay, you're going to see there's gas venting, okay, and I'll show you from where. If you look at the top of this gun, there are these 2 little cutouts here on the side of the receiver, here and here. And what this was is for the old 10mm version, there was something in the magazine the pins went through. So there are holes that go through this receiver. And I believe there's another in the top here. This little itty bitty hole here is like a gas relief hole. But what happens is when you get gas blowback, okay, you can look down in there and there's the 2 holes. You get a gas blowback and the gas will vent through this hole and come out here. Now if you look at my video when I tested the cast bullets, I'll give you the clip. It's a short clip. Watch when I'm on the bench and you'll see while I'm shooting, you can see the gas venting from the rifle from this gun here. So take a look at that clip and keep an eye on that and watch that. Okay, what causes the blowback? Well, this cartridge, when I looked up the load data, with this weight bullet, I use like almost the lowest charge. I think second one up or something from the lowest charge recommended in the load data. Why I do it? Because standard deviation on that load is like a single digit. It's light, it's reliable, it works, recoil's fine, and accuracy is great. But what happens is, when this cartridge goes off, the pressure is so low, and how a cartridge works is when the pressure from the ignition starts, and as the bullet starts to travel, that's why you use brass. It expands and forms an airtight gas seal in the chamber, okay, as the bullet travels up the barrel. So, if you have a squib or light load, when a bullet starts to travel, the gas is expanding. There's not enough pressure to force this brass to form the seal. So you will get gas leaking back into the chamber, okay? And what it does, it comes down, goes to the bolt face, and comes out. It is not the same thing as the headspace being off and the case separating. When your headspace is off, what happens is when the pressure's there, there's so much room, it actually fractures the case or ruptures it. Then you get really big blowback. Having a squib round and having a little blowback come back is no big deal. This gun vents it. The only thing is, when you fire this in a 91, the 91 doesn't have anywhere for the gas to go. A lot of rifles will have a hole in the receiver, especially older ones, a little tiny hole. So if a case does rupture, it's vented through the hole and not back over the bolt into your eyes. And when you fire these cartridges, I was firing it in a 38 short rifle in 6.5, you can feel a little bit of the gas coming back at you. And that is also the same reason. This load is so low pressure, it's not expanding the brass fully, and you will see discoloration around the case mouth, which if you reload, you know that usually means you don't have a powerful enough load to expand your case. But in the situation with this rifle, it's acceptable, it bleeds out, it really isn't that bad. It's not a case rupturing, it's just the case is not expanding. So that is a critical difference, okay, between what's going on. So my recommendation in terms of safety, okay, now I've seen people also go and fire standard ammo in here. Some of it might have a 264 diameter bullet, which is sparing. And one guy was firing the Hornady. It's an older video. He fired a Hornady with a huge 160 grain torpedo bullet in there, which is just about the same as shooting military ammo in one of these. Now, they're doing it. They make the videos, and nobody goes on to tell you anything down the road. And like when they did it, the first one at CNR Arsenal, the gun did function, but they noticed that when they were operating the bolt, something wasn't right, and they realized they cracked the locking lugs. Okay, because it may not explode the gun the first time. You can probably go on and fire it, and eventually the stress will create a crack or failure. Okay, and in these next videos, I'm going to try to keep it short. I'm going to show you how to check the gun, what to look for, and explain the areas to examine visually so you will know if something's wrong and if you're going to have a failure. Okay? So, I'm going to end this one. And, all right, on that note, the reason I made this, shooting factory ammo or cutting the load in half, I don't believe is safe. I believe you should find something that does not generate the pressure, like this. And another thing, even though this lead is somewhat hard, if you take a lead bullet and crush it with pliers, you can deform this. You take a jacketed bullet and do that, you're not gonna. So, a cast bullet has some give to it in terms of pressure, where a jacketed bullet may overpressurize because it doesn't have that give, to deform or whatever as you do it. So that's another thing to think about. All right, but I do not recommend firing factory ammo, and I kind of don't recommend dumping half the powder out, even though there's a lot of videos out there, I don't recommend that. So next we're going to go on to checking these guns and what to examine to see, even if you get away with it, if you're coming to a failure, what to look at, what to look for, pretty simple and basic. And also, if you're buying one, what to look at when you're buying the gun to see if someone did not go and overpressure the gun. And, you might be flirting with disaster here. All right, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.